Okay. I'm not sure how this is going to look later, but we'll just go with it. Well, welcome again, everyone. Thanks for being here. Super excited to see an old friend of mine, Melanie, from Hood River, Oregon, if you know it, here. Oregon is one of those wet states, right? So any state can have mold, but some states are a little more prone. So probably most of you guys kind of know a little bit about me and my story, but I was exposed to mold while I lived in Oregon in an old home in Portland. Just didn't know I was exposed for a lot of years. And as I look back on it, um, a lot of what I was experiencing was Epstein-Barr, which was actually diagnosed for me before mold, which was great. So I was doing some herbal care for that and like sauna, but I really couldn't like kick it because I still had this mold I was dealing with. So I'm going to talk about the interaction of some of those factors. And if you've been following me on Instagram or on my newsletter, I've just been really excited uh, to understand EBV a little better now and how we can approach it. I think it may look different for different people. Um, but yeah, let's dive in. Still driving me crazy that I can't see this right. But here we go. So, Epstein-Barr virus is one of about 9 types of herpes viruses. And this particular virus is transmitted through saliva and can be a little bit through sexual secretions, but mainly through saliva, which is called the kissing disease. But also, especially like when young kids are exposed, if you think about how much they put stuff in their mouths and pass everything around, you can be exposed, kids can be exposed that way. If you are exposed at a young age, it's in a sense like better, may not manifest so much later on in life. But one of the many associations of Epstein-Barr is it can create some Th2 dominance in the immune system, which can lead to a tendency towards allergies and asthma. So I am kind of wondering with little kids, my friend's son, for instance, is 6 with pretty severe asthma, like needs a nebulizer. It's like a whole thing. And I wonder, could it be a part of the childhood asthma situation? Um, I'm just gonna mute a couple people for now, just so it doesn't make any little noise for the recording. But feel free to unmute later. Let's see. Okay. So first contact was gonna mostly be to the mouth. So first kind of manifestations or growth of EBV will be in the saliva of the mouth. And yeah, we have immune cells in our mouth, and especially Epstein-Barr goes to live inside of our B cells of our immune system. So that's where they multiply. That's the kind of the cells they take over. From there, it spreads wherever it wants to go. So spleen, liver, just kind of everywhere. Some of the education I've heard says kind of they feel like it gathers in the liver when it multiplies. And then from there, if it's growing or if it comes in your teenage years and it moves to your thymus gland, that's when you're going to experience mononucleosis, which is that kind of usually teenage age disease where you feel really fatigued. And sometimes in our health history, we kind of forget certain things. Um, and I really kind of forgot that I had mono. I had it in the summer before college. Still, when I went to college, I was pretty fatigued. I kind of forgot all about it. It didn't affect me for um, a long time after. I felt like I had pretty good health through college and after college and all that. I think there are different things that could make it reoccur later. But if it hits the thymus gland, it is going to manifest as mononucleosis. If it sort of travels up to the thyroid, it's going to manifest as Hashimoto's. So one of my educators is saying like 100% of Hashimoto's is EBV. So I've definitely known there's this mold Hashimoto's connection, and we can't necessarily say like 100% of it is EBV. It could be, right? Because if we say, oh, a lot of people with mold have Hashimoto's, is it because they also are having chronic EBV? So it kind of now is living in the thyroid gland, getting energy from the thyroid gland. For me, I'll have like swelling around my neck. Like it's interesting, before I had this recent flare up, I was like, for a few weeks, I was like, oh, my throat is kind of like, it's kind of swollen at my thyroid, but I didn't really do much about it. I wish I had been more proactive and done some like hot and cold packs. Then you can do like lemongrass oil, Melanie, or feel free to share if you have any essential oils you like to use on the thyroid. But I wasn't really doing any of that. I didn't really know I was still dealing with EBV personally. Um, but for me, yeah, I found out I had EBV first, then Hashimoto's, then mold. So the mold was kind of recognized last. Mold is a huge immune disruptor. It's really throwing things off. It maybe will initially raise white blood cells, but eventually lower them. And it really lowers mitochondrial charge. And I've just been learning like when that charge is lower, pathogens can infect us easier. The gut is off. There's all sorts of things that are off in mold. So very easy to develop, for Lyme to manifest, or EBV to manifest, for parasites to manifest. Some of you guys probably know and experience this story. So yeah, for me, I found mold kind of last after having gone through, frankly, years of chronic pain and lots of like feverishness, chills, catching a cold like every 2 weeks, which is not normal. Feeling better in the summer, but not totally realizing that. Um, so can we only treat EBV? No, I also have to get out of mold and work on the immune system. But I'm going to share with you some things I'm learning about EBV lately uh, that can hopefully resolve some things for you. So other interesting thing I learned is EBV comes higher, it can affect your facial nerves, and then you're gonna have like a palsy in the face. So interesting. Okay. Other triggers can be stress and hormonal changes. So for me, just this recent flare up, my periods are kind of fading out. I'm 50 years old, and I had a little mini, barely anything period, and I feel like that kind of depression of hormones. I was more inflamed, and you know, maybe that let the EBV come up. Another trigger for me, I think I shared in my newsletter, is airplane travel. It's become really annoying for me. It will knock me out. And I bought a radiation blanket to use on the plane, which helps a lot. And I have to just really, you know, antioxidant up now. So for me now, it seems that body stress of the radiation on airplane travel for me is a trigger for EBV as well. I mentioned the asthma earlier. So that has also been manifesting for me in sort of a weird way. So I've had a tiny, tiny bit of asthma over the years, but since I moved to Arizona, it got worse unexpectedly. I thought maybe it's because I'm in perimenopause. There's a connection there. I even had a respiratory doctor. And I'd be in the waiting room, everyone looked very sickly. And then there was me. I was like, I was like exercising, I was tan, I was healthy, but I had this like low grade inability to breathe. So, he would recommend staff, and, I was kind of trying conventional care, but he was like, I don't really understand you. Now, as I look back, I think this was a factor. So as EBV is affecting the immune system, it's, let's see, creating bronchial restriction, creating mucus, and inhibiting two different types of histamine degraders. Very interesting. basically a source for MCAS you may have heard of, can also be a source of POTS that you may be experiencing. So super, super interesting. I just honestly didn't know EBV could be tied to so many of these things that I'm literally experiencing, that you may be experiencing. It's just been blowing my mind. That's why I kind of came on to do this casual webinar. Um, Long COVID, you may have heard, is often EBV just because now the immune system's been dysregulated, and now, oh, this virus that was dormant can now express again. So some of the other symptoms, yeah, fatigue, shortness of breath, hives, flushing, heat intolerance, food sensitivities, lightheadedness, the asthma we talked about, allergies, frequent infection, frequent colds and flus. Feel free to share in the chat symptoms you've experienced around all this. Just super interesting stuff. So let's take a little break and do any questions you had. Melanie said essential oils that also thyroid are lemongrass, myrrh, and frankincense for both hypo or hyper, and additionally geranium for hypo. Great, thank you so much. That's awesome. So you can do those right, just, topically. And I like to do a little castor oil with it, like while I'm in the sauna. There is even a little castor oil pack they make for your neck. It looks like a eye patch type thing. And then what was I gonna say? Yeah, you can do hot and cold compress on the neck too. So I think especially if you're feeling that like swelling or you're feeling your symptoms off, every time I start to feel off, I just start doing all the detox things. So I have a sauna, sometimes I'm doing coffee enema, I have castor oil packs, I have a vibration plate, I have a nebulizer. I've been going through this a while, so I have all the gadgets. And then I really start hitting the antioxidants. And that's pretty easy in a sense because there's so many to choose from. So you can be doing lemon water, you can be doing ginger tea, you can be doing turmeric shots, you can be doing glutathione. Like there's a lot you can do. So I'll show you a few products, but just around the house, there's probably, you have probably quite a bit to start with. Hi, Brendan. Propolis and licorice. I have not tried those things, but I will look into it. I meant to bring down here, some of you may know the practitioner Kasha Kleins, and she's got a very big, thick EBV book, and she goes over a lot of the different individual herbs and remedies, and there's a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if those are two of them, because there's really quite a lot. There's quite a bit in nature that benefits our immunity. So yeah, good question. I don't totally know. Okay. Any other questions at this moment before I get into some protocol type stuff? Okay.
Did I hear you say that POTS or POTS is related as well?
Yeah. So affects the autonomic nervous system, neuroinflammatory. This is EBV, what EBV does. Affects the autonomic nervous system, encourages autoimmunity, is neuroinflammatory, is generally inflammatory, and then it can make the vessels kind of leaky, and then the blood pressure unstable. So interesting, right?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of electrolytes the last couple of years to help with that, but I wonder if it's been, I just tested like the last 2 years positive for it, but I don't know if I was tested before for it. So I don't know if I've had it since teenage years.
Do you remember being sick or anything?
I don't remember having mono.
Okay.
Mm.
And it could be just you had a flu that, you stayed home from school and you didn't think much of it.
I
Uh,
did, yeah, did have a really bad flu when I was a teenager. But is there like if it shows up on a test, is it something that like if it's flagged as high, does that mean like you've had it and you could have had it for a long time or you just got it? Like, can you explain that? Like how to
yeah,
diagnose
I'm
it?
glad you asked about the testing. The testing is a little frustrating because most of us have been exposed. So there's like four markers. I don't have any of it handy. but we can maybe pull it up later. But there's like 4 markers, and it's called, you know, one is like antigen and one is antibody, one is this and one is like they're kind of all related, but some will show more if it's an exposure, but we don't know if it's new or old. Some will show an exposure, but it's definitely old. A little bit may show that it's like flared up and new, but it's a tough one. I think there's one marker that's like a brand new exposure, but what are the chances that that one's gonna pop up? So I think I've had it run twice. I made a little cheat sheet, I remember, for our coaches for kind of how to read it. I remember when I first moved to Arizona, I had it run again, and I know there was a number high that I was like, oh, like that shouldn't be that high. So you probably have you can order this from like Life Extension. You can order this panel yourself. But then the reading it is the tougher part. So you think I can try to pull up for you guys what I have, but or just go to like a functional medicine blog and it explains like how to read it. But I will say it's a bit tough. You know, it's maybe run it if like you're just curious, but it can also be, I think, pretty much like based on symptoms. You can go ahead and treat. Another thing that could let you know that you're on the right track that we'll talk about more later is this is the Death Bio EBV SSR kit, which is like a graduated level of homeopathic. And if you react, it's because your body is. So I'm on my second vial and I already reacted to that one. It wasn't too bad, but I was a little like achy through the night and I woke up and I was like, oh, but then like by the morning it was resolved. It's interesting because I did a different kit when I was just getting to know the company. I did a head injury kit. It didn't give, it was the wrong kit for me. I didn't have any reaction at all. So I've kind of been educated now. If you're not reacting, it's not it. If you are reacting, it's because your body is finding the EBV to fight. So you'll get these little transitory reactions. So there's the whole kit, and then there's also something called viral combination if you wanted to do a little bit more of a test. But this covers a bunch of viruses, including cytomegalovirus, which I want to learn more about, but it's kind of similar to, so there's a bunch of herpes viruses and flu viruses on here. There's Epstein-Barr, there's Hep B, herpes simplex 1 and 2. So it's sort of like if you don't know what you've got going on, you can use this viral combination. Apparently, this can make you react a little negatively. To me, I found it helpful and positive to use this. So this is all I had at home when I started to feel flared up. I mean, this is all for EBV. Particularly, I had hope. So I started using that and all the antioxidants, and I got better pretty quickly. So yeah, it's not. I don't have a great answer for you just because it's not. They're testing it great either. Yeah. Awesome. Good question. Any other questions? Okay, someone was saying they use propolis and licorice. Awesome. How do you use that? Do you use it when you're having a flare up, or do you use like a long protocol to try to put it in remission? Yeah, and Thomas shared it can definitely be passed by like sharing drinks and stuff like that. Um, Unfortunately. Okay. So another thing about these kits, I mean, I think they're really fantastic, but it is something you kind of have to maintain. Like I'm probably always gonna fly with a whole bunch of stuff at this point. I'm not gonna risk like having a flare up from flying. And I'll probably fly with like that virus thing and a few little goodies. Some people will say they can like cure viruses, but it's really not true and accurate. You can put them into remission and then lead such a healthy lifestyle that they stay in remission, but you're not going to make it completely go away. I think that's like a bit of a myth. So, okay, someone's sharing they use a product called super lysine every morning. Do you use that more for EBV or for like herpes 1? And many of us do actually have more than one herpes. I mean, I've got minimum two. They're pesky little things. Death Bio has kits for other types of herpes viruses as well. Okay. No other questions at the moment. I'm going to go into some protocol stuff. So, an important thing to do before you start detoxing too much, especially mold. I think especially mold is one that you better be careful with. Is you want to prep the body. You want to make sure drainage pathways are open, that the liver is getting enough nutrition, that you're able to sweat, this kind of a thing. I actually just talked to a new potential client about a week ago, and she was saying that a practitioner discovered she had mold, which is fantastic, then put her on a pretty heavy hitting protocol. Um, and the client was feeling a lot worse instead of better. And the practitioner was like, you just got to push through it. No, they didn't do any detoxing draining. She had just barely moved out of mold, and she put her right on pushing out toxins. This is never going to go well, really. So luckily, many of my clients have already been detoxing draining quite a bit. So I think there's most people I'll be able to put them right into like an ED protocol because they're so healthy. So like doing the work. But if not, you better be prepping. So in the Death Bio world, the first couple options is one's a all homeopathic kit, and it's called comprehensive homeopathic detox or something like that. It's a pulse of 3 products for a few days, and then another 3 products for 4 days. And there's about 2 months worth of product. If you're tolerating it, you can start your Epstein-Barr work sooner. If you're not tolerating it, you've got to lower the drops or kind of make some adjustments. But what makes the Death Bio pretty darn unique, A, is that they use homeopathic detox, which are going to be a lot more gentle. And then just the products are really interesting. So this one's called Spinal Max, and it's kind of one of its focuses is brain body communication. It's also good for like spinal health and holding adjustments. And then this guy is called Cerebromax. It's kind of a brain detox product. This is super powerful. Plus, it helps with sleep and just a little balance. And this is a pretty unique product called Matrix Support. So it's addressing something that isn't discussed a lot in detox, which is the extracellular matrix. And it's a little different than lymph. It's sort of like with kind of like the fluid hanging out in the fascia between the cells. And when that's dirty, there isn't good communication. So it's working on clearing that out before you bring in detox. And I honestly don't see like any other detox really doing that. So it's super awesome. You take those for a few days and then you switch to a series called Detox 1, 2, and 3. One is more for the liver, one is more for digestion, one is more for kidney. There's also some cool stuff in there for like detoxing pesticides, and this one has like thymus glands. So you can always open these up to read more about it. So you switch to those, and that's the homeopathic kit. If you do the additional products, they have a powder which has, greens and vitamins and liver support, and then there's a capsule that goes with it that's liver support. So Death Bio has the concept of working on the energetic level, the physical level, and the mental, emotional level. And then if you address all 3 instead of just one, you're going to get better results. The part that really blows my mind is, I didn't even know this when I got to know the company, is for every illness, every pathogen, they have a corresponding mental emotional remedy. So with EBV, you're mostly tired, sleeping, sleeping, sleeping. So the remedy they use for that is called motivation. And it's going to give you like a little bit more get up and go, like get through the day. Obviously, we want to fix your EBV, but most of us still have to work, still have to raise kids. So it's just going to give you a little juice to keep you going, not with caffeine or anything. Another option could be the Energize, which is a thyroid support tincture. And there's other thyroid products too, but I just wanted to give you a sense that while you're going through it, they're also kind of supporting you energetically. And something that can happen when we're chronically ill and we're tired is we don't want to do these protocols. We don't want to go to the store to buy groceries. Like, we're just tired. So if you can have a little more motivation to do your treatment strategies, then it's going to be more effective. So Death Bio puts all those mental emotional remedies with a purple label. This one's called Focus, and it's good for ADD or just kind of getting focused and in that flow state. And it works pretty well and pretty quickly. Like if you have to sit down and work at the computer and you don't want to, yeah, that's a good one. It can be good for kids too. It's nice that these are liquids, so we can use them for kids. They're basically tasteless. Uh, I'll just share if someone's like 12, 12, 10, 12 years old, you use a half dose. If it's a baby, you can just do a drop in the belly button, which is interesting. So they can all be dosed for children. So that's like step one, basically, of everything with Death Bio is doing some mental emotional support, opening detox and drainage. Usually that all goes quite gently because it's just general. We just did this as a group and there was no drama, nothing happened. Then you can move into clearing pathogens. So I showed you this EVV kit and this stuff is not quick. So you're taking this stuff for 2 months. And then when that passes, you're taking an EBV remedy once a week. And that goes on quite a while too. So, but it gets easier and easier. And all you do is drink this little vial once, according to instructions. So in the beginning, it's every 3 days. And then again, we're supporting herbally, nutritionally, and mental emotionally. So all the pathogen kits also use smart silver to take internally. It's good for fungus, good for bacteria, good for basically everything. So always smart silver twice a day. And then I usually have one partner remedy that is more for symptoms. So unfortunately, all the names are very annoying. This is EPST plus. This is for the symptoms of EBV. So the little vials I showed you are what we call nosodes of Epstein-Barr virus. They're basically homeopathic of the waste of Epstein-Barr virus, which is gross, but it teaches your body to go after that virus in a gentle way. Just like I felt this morning, this may kick things up a little bit. And so this remedy is more for like the fatigue, the feverishness that you could be feeling as you go through this kind of protocol. So those all come in one big kit that I can show you. Or if for some reason you don't want everything in that kit, you can take stuff out and customize. I'll show you a couple more fun things. So everything with a green label is more herbal nutritional. This is the liposomal resveratrol curcumin. And it's obviously like antioxidant support, so good for immunity. Resveratrol is very good for high estrogen also. So this is just something I already had and was playing around with. And then this guy is a super special product, the liposomal biofilm disruptor. So it has enzymes and quercetin. Quercetin's quite nice for EBV and histamines, right? So I just started taking this one spoonful a day. I've been dealing with this stuff way too long. I am all in, like, especially I just had a pretty bad flare up. I had to cancel stuff. I was not happy. And then I learned all this and I'm like, let's do it. I'd rather, take 5 things a day and, hopefully really get this into remission. I would say I was probably having these little asthmatic flare-ups 20 times a year. So still way too much. It was a lot. And I really didn't know what it was from. But now I really think it's this EBV piece that I didn't quite understand. So I had this little bit of histamine, this little bit of like asthma, little bit of feverishness, and I think my immune system decent, so it would go back to sleep, then it would come back again. So, any questions from there? I know that's a lot of info. Okay, someone said I'm very sensitive and have mast cell. What should I try first? So I would again say start with detox and drainage, and I would say more food-based antioxidants. I would say if you feel super reactive, move carefully into actually triggering the EBV, mounting the attack, right, with these guys. But this is what I found when I ran the cleanse. I had a lot of people be scared to sign up, not sign up, because frankly, if you've been in this camp, you have like a lot of medical trauma, you've been through a lot of symptoms, and you're just afraid of flaring up. All these products are meant to really end mast cell for you, not make it worse. You just have to be a little careful with making sure your body's ready. So I'll just share one other drainage product from the line. This is called GI drainage. This is like if you tend to be constipated, fantastic product. There's also one called systemic drainage that'll do like liver, kidney, GI. So this could be a place to start, just opening that up. Or again, you could start with this 6-bottle detoxing I showed you earlier. And again, if you're doing well, then you can start doing EBV work, taking maybe a little more focused antioxidant. It's like a catch-22, right? If we want to get over MCAS, we also have to get in there and work on our causes of MCAS. So just do it carefully. So yeah, it like I said, you might have come late, Thomas, but there's really nothing that can put it totally. It's not going to eliminate the virus. It's just going to put it very much into remission, and then it's just your job to kind of, keep up that lifestyle. And that could work great, it could work great and this never comes back. Or it could be you have the death of a parent, or, you fly internationally and that doesn't go so well. So there's, again, I would prep during those times and know like I'm a little vulnerable. Let me make sure my immune system is shored up. If you do flare up, you can use something. I don't have the bottle here, but there's one called like EPST Homo, and it's a bunch of uh, strengths of different homeopathics for EBV. So you could use that, if you're flared up. But really, you're not meant to have to go through the whole kit stuff more than once. But if you have a little flare, or think you are, or think you could do some of the support around that. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, Brendan, one thing Death Bio talks about, Brendan asked, does Death Bio talk about interference fields and have an approach for clearing them? The ECM is often involved with interference fields, so the matrix product might help with clearing certain types of interference fields. So do you mean interference like energetic? Just tell me more. But one product that Death Bio has is called multiple miasm, which is like a very traditional homeopathic formula to clear blocks that are like epigenetic blocks that we could have towards healing. So they have that product. They have a lot of products. It's like a lot. So clearing interference fields, you have to maybe explain a little more, but they have like a mental emotional drainage kit that can kind of clear that. We have different homeopathics for pesticides. So there's a lot of techniques they have. But for the most part, all these products are combinations. And so they're really designed to clear quite a bit. There's even an EMF product, which I also want to take when I fly on airplanes because I'm sure that's going for me there. But yeah, you're welcome to say more. But I think they have some pretty sophisticated, awareness. So this is kind of a cool thing if you know anything about homeopathic, and I'm still kind of learning. But there was a company called Heal out of Germany. It was kind of a second generation of pretty progressive homeopathics and detox theory. And that company had a base here in the US. Here in the US, we aren't always the friendliest towards natural medicine. So they left the US. The homeopathic industry has taken a real beating here for a long time. Um, but one of I think their chief medical officer actually came to Death Bio from Heal. So he brought in a lot of that same theory to the Death Bio line. And I think partly what we're trying to do is make it more accessible. So you don't have to you don't have to be in the minutia of understanding homeopathy to use these products. But yeah, they're coming out with more and more, especially around the mental emotional block. Michael, yes, you can apply castor oil over the thyroid. Uh, he's wondering if there could be any adverse effects. I mean, I don't really foresee that, to be honest. I haven't really noticed any negative effects. A lot of things that are natural are like trying to just find homeostasis. They're not trying to push you into you know, push you in the thyroid function, right? They're just trying to support the thyroid's tissue and natural function or reduce inflammation. So I don't think you can worry. I don't think you have to worry too much. You may want to start with just plain castor oil and maybe add just 1 drop of essential oil. Just kind of go, slowly over time. Oh, okay. Brendan says scars or cavitation. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I don't know what they have for scars and cavitations. I'll have to learn more about that. I know from a different injection course I learned they inject the procaine into the scar. That's like the coolest thing. Okay, so I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, I'll have to ask that. I don't totally know what they do for scarring. I would say they're coming out with more and more stuff for fascia. There's something called quantum, I don't know what it's called, quantum something kit. And it's kind of for also like fascia and like healthy movement of like structured water in the body. So I don't know if that plays a little bit of part. I know, Thomas, like it is a pain. So that's why I'm going to be doing webinars and stuff. And he's saying the names are confusing. I don't know if partly that's because, again, like FDA, they can't always say the exact thing, right? Because we can't say we're curing anything or diagnosing anything. But the names are a pain. I think they're slowly trying to update a lot of the names to make them clearer. The company is over 30 years old. So, I don't know why they made so many bad names fast. But you can always reach out. I don't know if you're on my newsletter list, Thomas, but I'll put in this recording and some links to things. And yeah, unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately. It's a company that's going to come with some education because the work they're doing is pretty deep. So they sort of want you to be educated. They don't want you to just kind of throw yourself into it. But yeah, the names are confusing. There's actually one for Valley Fever, which I find interesting, living in Phoenix. The name is not what you'd think. So all the kits have weird names. So as they come out with more mental emotional kits, the names are way easier. But all the pathogen kits are pretty confusing. So I'll do a couple more webinars, and I think I'm going to open a group coaching program in like late September. It'll be affordable. If you're on a protocol or you want to start one, you can just come on and ask questions and make sure you're buying the right products and that kind of thing. So yeah, good question. Awesome. Anything else? I'm so worried how this recording is going to look because I seem to be this big. All this stuff. I guess it's fine. We're getting the information recorded one way or the other. I guess maybe I haven't talked a ton about mold yet. So does anybody have any questions about all of that? I guess from a really high level, I don't like people to still be in mold and starting protocols, really. If you're still in mold, eat well, do simple stuff like rinse out your nose, take a binder, take vitamin C, but don't bother starting on a big pathogen killing situation when your body is still being weakened. It's just it's just kind of a waste of money. So just wait till you're in a more stable environment. It'll be easier to take the kit and everything too when you're in a more stable environment. Uh, Lori asked about blocking the proliferation of EBV. Yeah, same. It'll also really hopefully get it like so deep into dormancy that it's not proliferating either. Um, so good question. Stacy, yeah, so I have a direct shop link that's just going to look like a shop, but it's my shop. So I can put that in the chat. I should have prepared that earlier. Um, if you're not on my newsletter, you can go to my website and get the mold gift book, and then you'll be on my newsletter, and I'll send out this recording and the links and stuff like that. Michael said, does mold mycotoxin stay in some people's tissues or certain organs depending on their weight, genetics, or other factors, which would be harder to clear? What testing can we do beforehand to see how easily their body would get rid of mold with proper support? Mm, some factors would be like genetic factors, like 23andMe type genetic. There's certain genes that people really talk about mold. There's actually tons of genes involved in detox, right? It's not just like one certain one. So genetics could be a factor. You can certainly run like a blood test, an oat test. Some of that's, if you've been in mold, that's already going to be influenced by the mold. You're already going to be affected, but it will tell you where you're at as you're starting this mold protocol. So it could be showing you you're low in glutathione, you're low in iron, if you get a hormone test, you're low, your thyroid's low. So those are things you could be shoring up as you move into a mold protocol. So that's even something you could do when you're not quite ready to get all the way in. You could get some testing done. As far as weight, yeah, and then I would say, health history is a factor. Sometimes like age can be a factor. I generally see kids and young people clear up faster, for sure. Weight, I don't know. Some people will really gain weight because of mold because the body doesn't know how to, move the toxins. So they'll put it into fat. Mold is often like an estrogen mimicker, so it can kind of create weight from that. So it may be more the mold causing the weight than the other way around. But no matter what weight you are, you can get started and it's going to benefit. Oh, yeah. So Thomas asked a really good question. How do you balance detoxing from mold and working on EBV? Super, super important question. So we talked about being out of the environment. If you're still in it, I would say just kind of stick to the basics. And then if you're out, anytime you can be doing detox techniques, that's going to help everything. It's going to help the thyroid. It's going to help the immune system. It's going to help mold. So kind of a 2-for-1. If you start doing the sauna or dry brushing, that's kind of helping both things. Antioxidants, 2-for-1, good for mold, good for EBV. So those you could start laying on. So I would say, start with like an overarching, getting your sleep in order, getting your diet in order, having more colorful foods, using the sauna. Then you may want to add a little bit more specific for mold. So here's actually, if you're feeling strong enough, there's a mold kit coming out. And the mold kit is the same thing like this. You can actually do them both at the same time with alternation. So like on Monday, you take your mold, whatever you call it, vial, and then Tuesday you take your EBV vial. You just have to be strong, strong enough to do that. So that means getting your lifestyle in order, you doing the detox kit, making sure you're having bowel movement. And if you're feeling pretty good, go ahead and start both kits at once. You can do the mold and the EBV and save time. Um, if it seems like too much, you can slow down the pace, or you can say, I'm going to go back and only do one kit. So that's a little person to person, how much you can handle. But there can be some overlap as long as you're out of mold and that your body is strong enough to be working on that. Will the mold kit clear all of the real-time lab molds? Yeah, it can work on all of it. I don't have any of it here to show you more, but I'll talk about it more when it comes out, which is soon. It's really just like teaching your body how to clear it. And there seems to be a misconception that our bodies don't know how to clear mold, and you need like binders and you need all this stuff. Our bodies do know how to clear toxins, right? And it's just another toxin. So there's tons of antioxidant foods that can clear mycotoxins, like broccoli sprout, all sorts of things. And then tons of fibers are going to help move them out too. So why did I start talking about all this? Yeah, it's kind of a misconception that we can't clear mold or we need like this certain thing. Like, so our bodies can clear mold, and the homeopathic tincture will just help it identify it and help it kind of tag it for clearance. So no, Brendan, I haven't. No, please share more. Brendan is sharing some products for MCAS, so feel free to share more. Brendan, you have the same name as my brother, and it's pretty rare. Making me sentimental. Michael, yes, I will record it, put it on my YouTube, and then I'll send it out in an email. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I did a long podcast with Scott from Better Health Guy. He's so amazing. And yeah, the tincture that goes with mold is called anxious. And you can see why, right? There's just so much to think about. It's so overwhelming. There's so many decisions. And we lose trust in our body when we get in our head like that. So, there's other tinctures, but they picked anxious as like the main one. And I talk to my clients about that all the time because they've really lost, they're so full of fear and worry that they are not trusting their bodies. They're not trusting the decisions they make. And they're kind of going from here to here and blah, 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 blah. And that's like overstimulating their nervous system. And they're not doing it on purpose. It's just sort of like what happens. So we have to be aware of that and come back to ourselves and like do these simple things. Honestly, what mostly cleared me of mold was just doing the stuff day after day, rinsing out my nose, using the sauna, making my tea, like day after day after day. I wasn't like trying a new crazy doctor every 2 weeks. I was sticking to the plan. So that does work. Okay. Let's see a couple more questions and then we'll close up. Michael said, what happens if mold and mycotoxins get in the brain? Yeah, a lot happens. You can have either underfunctioning or inflammation. And mold mycotoxins get in the brain very easily because we're sniffing them and the blood-brain barrier is breaking down, so they go right in there. So this is people can end up, children can end up developing bipolar in that time. We can develop severe depression and rage and anxiety. We can develop forgetfulness, right? Poor recall. So a lot can happen in the brain, unfortunately, with mycotoxins. All of this technique is like systematic, so it's going to clear all of it. The fibrous antioxidants are very good for that blood-brain barrier. So yeah, great question. It's an important area to clear. And I used to feel like I would never have a normal brain again. Um, and it's not true, actually. I love cry. I became extremely anxious, and I just didn't think I could ever recover. And it just, again, like the brain is an organ, it can be cleared. We can do work, uh, like Melanie teaches about, working on a trauma, working on calming our nervous system, and all these tools together, again, day after day after day. I'm so calm now. I'm not worrying all day. I'm not like jumping if someone slams the door. It just took time. It took time, and then most of us have other things that go wrong in our lives, so it interrupts our recovery, so to speak. So you just have to just stick with it. But you're asking some great questions, Michael. Okay. Thomas says, is IV ozone overkill for EBV relapse? I don't think it's overkill if it's a technique that you really like. It probably wasn't my favorite, and it is a little expensive. You usually have to do a series, but if that's what's calling you, great. But I don't think it's required. I just knocked out this relapse pretty quickly from home, so that was good. Okay, Brendan said KPV is a mast cell stabilizer. It's antimicrobial, especially against candida and some bacteria like strep and staph, so it can cause die-off, which in better case, and Lexinox might be a great choice. Okay, and that's for neural inflammation. So are these peptides, Brendan? Sounds like it is. I'm super interested in peptides. I can sort of technically order them. I honestly don't see enough clients in person to be stacking up on all these peptides, which is why I haven't gone there, but I think they're incredible. Um, I know there's some you can do as a nasal spray, potentially for that blood-brain barrier and the mold. Yeah, so I think that's really awesome. Yeah, I've kind of studied it, but it's a little harder for me to actually implement. Um, but I think they're awesome. Okay, we might be at a good ending point on the hour here. Oh, yeah, you're welcome, Sir Thomas. Yeah, yeah. I hope, and I guess my desire in the functional space right now, and think some things still cost money, uh, but that we can simplify and make things more affordable and accessible to people. Um, things options that are really effective, but kind of simplifying things. So yeah, you're welcome. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I will end this recording now, and I don't know how it's gonna look, but I'll send it out. And maybe I can, yeah, I'll put some links, and I appreciate you guys. All the best.